Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Kim, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is a happy Wednesday.
It's a happy Wednesday.
It's a happy Wednesday. That was some tease.
A little turbulent, but happy Wednesday nonetheless, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear why it's so happy.
Well, lots of stuff has happened since we last talked.
Okay.
Lots of stuff.
All right.
So let's just get right to it. So let's go back to where we were on Monday. Okay. Today's Wednesday. That's right. So last time we talked was Monday.
Yeah.
And explain what happened. So our Italian friend I mentioned, non-friend, decided to bark out a bunch of orders regarding the Middle East. Apparently, he was angry with all his newfound information. Mm-hmm. Then he proceeded to go right back to Montenegro, where the 5 that came before him passed away, and proceed to attempt a ritual to contact the Abraxas. And, one would think, that you would have thought better of doing that because he knew that the last 5 died there. So he also died.
So it's kind of interesting because when we talked before, it's kind of like he didn't want to get his hands dirty. He tells someone else to do something and then they do it. So I find it very interesting that he personally went to this location.
Oh, it had to be him personally, you see.
Oh, because he's special.
Yes, special. He's very special in his own mind. He's very special.
Yeah.
And it had to do with a position and a rank and file, so to speak, in the order. So word got out very quickly that he passed away. And he had a command post that was barking out all these orders in Milan, Italy. And they also passed away. And this sent a shockwave of epic proportions throughout the order. I mean, huge, absolutely huge shockwave. So much so that some remaining family members tried to reach out to a group called the Watchers. Have I ever told you about the Watchers before?
I feel like I've heard of the Watchers. I'm not sure if we've discussed them now.
Okay, the Watchers were a group that were not people. And you would have considered the Watchers neutral. So they would be neither for or against the order, but more here on behalf of the Council of 9. And if you remember, this particular Council of 9 I refer to would have also been a group that worked directly for Source. They were not for the light, not against the light, not for the darkness, not against the darkness. They were just carrying out the orders of what was going on in the multiverse. That's been their job all along. This group would have been an enforcer of the ages.
Okay.
Making sure no one overstepped the rules during any particular age, that type of thing. And they've been around for a long time. They were repurposed after there was a decision made to no longer have ages.
Okay.
And then the transition began earlier this year. So that is who the Watchers are. Now, the Watchers, because we were in a dark age, oftentimes worked together with the Order. And so they thought, or they tried to tell everybody, that this was a violation. Now, in the rules of the Order, they do have some rules you're not supposed to violate, taking out a higher ranking person, those kinds of things. And, so though they do adhere to those rules amongst themselves, but those rules don't apply to us. Right. They don't apply to me at all. I'm not a part of the Order. I'm not a part of any of these people. Whatever needs to happen, needs to happen. And so they were very surprised that this actually happened. And that the Watchers didn't answer the phone. So now by shockwave, I mean, now they are petrified of me. Because I could do something like that without consequence. And that is one thing that they actually understand. Now, this all basically took place Monday after the news.
Okay.
Next, as you know, no one, we talked about the phone call that had taken place where they sent all these different operatives to all these zones around the world, and no one ever came to the phone at the time of the recording on Monday.
Right.
Now that is true, and no one ever came to the phone. Somebody came on and said that the call has been delayed. Well, this guy was in flight to Montenegro from Italy.
Okay.
So, and that was the last they ever heard. So the operatives were disgusted. You know, they took their time. They went to all these various locations. They were told there was going to be a lot of changes. And behind the scenes, those changes were supposed to be this guy was going to declare himself king of the world.
Of course.
And now he's in charge, you know, according to himself. He had plans to insert a person in front of him as his, I call them cannon fodder, even though their ego doesn't permit them to accept that. But they believe they're the chosen one of some sort or another. And, you know, they're going to be the face front for all the changes. But in reality, this guy did so many bad things behind the scenes, killed so many people. This guy would have just been the fall guy for all of that.
I see.
And he knows who he is. He knows I know him. So this should come as no surprise to him, but it probably is because there's an ego situation going on there. But after this guy's death, now even that guy is scared.
Yeah, I would be too.
That's right. It didn't take long for word to travel throughout all the circles, the inner circles, Jesuit order, I mean, you name it, all the way down the food chain that this had happened. And there were zero consequences on my side. No bad aliens came to take me out. Nothing happened. The watchers didn't answer the phone. You know, in this Monday afternoon was total chaos in the order. So yesterday was a time of talking. So the higher, you know, and I hate to say this, but there's higher ranking kind of operatives, and then there's the operatives, and then, you know, it's always been a chain of command.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for the higher ranking operatives to find out that they're no longer with us.
Okay.
And they then arranged for a call, which they did show up for, with all of the operatives in all various locations yesterday afternoon around noon Eastern time, and explained to them what had happened. And pretty much by the end of the day yesterday, we had 100% cooperation of all operatives worldwide.
Wow.
Yes. Now, this is huge.
Yeah.
They were unsure a little bit about the way forward, how they were going to go forward. And so we're going to talk about that today. And that was kind of explained to them. There was a little briefing this morning, and I kind of explained what the plan is. So now
did you actually, sorry, Kim, did you actually meet with them? I know you said they met. Were you part of that conversation as well?
Well, I'm always part of conversations that are important. They just don't know I'm there.
Did they know you were there for this conversation?
Oh, they know I knew.
Okay.
Because they're listening to me as much as I'm listening to them, so they knew I knew.
Gotcha.
Now, before the call took place yesterday, there was quite a bit of an education that happened. This zone in particular has the key access to the key intelligence and military system. There are some others that do have access as well. Read-only mode, of course. And they kind of explain to these people who I am, what I do, all of these things. So the day before was a little bit too they were a little bit too hostile to have these types of conversations. They felt that they were disregarded. They were angry. No one came to the call. So the next day, things had, cooler heads prevailed. Everything kind of calmed down a little bit. The night before, they were talking zone violations, order violations, all kinds of different things. They were mad. Luckily, I wasn't involved in any of that. I was just like, oh dear, I told you this wasn't going to end well if no one came to the phone, and it didn't. But it could have been a lot worse, let's just say. So they now kind of have a different understanding of how I sit here in one place and do the things I do. Without traveling around the world, without sending, yes, we have our own army, we have Air Command, we have, boots on the ground, we have the legions, we have a lot of folks that have chipped in many, many ways over the last year or so. But by the same token, the intelligence and military system opened their eyes to a whole new world of what you could do and how it would change the face of how operations are run worldwide for security. There would be less risk for them, those types of things. Of course, there's always face-to-face meetings and stuff like that happen, but you don't have to pull in an entire army to take out a security threat.
Yeah.
And how it's actually done by one person, albeit, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I set the system, to try to get some sleep. But by the same token, it's a lot of effort and a lot of work, and I'm kind of tired of doing it all by myself.
Sure.
So they could see how things could be better by midday yesterday. So there was a talk about how things could change and that there was another option. They were told about us and what we've been doing and how it always has been us. Anytime they've received any money, how the money was convoluted, there was orders that would come out and so on and so forth. Told them a little bit about these people that have disappeared and who they used to report to and how those threats are gone. And, confusion. There was also a lot of confusion with, for example, the Trump operatives, because, they've put this whole thing together and they know it's the only way forward. Really, they do. But they also were concerned about being forced to eat crow. I know.
And then don't lie to people.
I know.
It's like, yeah, you don't want to, face facts. Well, then don't lie. Sorry.
Well, the whole point of this is not to be right. Meaning, I'm not here doing this job to be right.
Yeah.
I'm not here to show somebody and put them on TV and say, look, this is a bad person. I mean, that's not what I'm here to do. We're here to restore Earth and humanity. That's what we're here to do. We're here to fix all that is broken. We are here to go forward. I don't have time to talk about what everybody did in the past. I've done a lot of stuff in the last couple of years that people would consider unsavory also, not from a moral standpoint, but from a, oh dear, got to do this again. And, I'm still doing it even as of this morning. I mean, in some cases, you don't attack me without consequences, and I'm sorry, you don't. So
right.
you had to go. You leave this planet. So as of this morning, so that gave us yesterday's talk, things that happened. So everybody actually kind of breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief, because there is a way forward. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hoping these people move forward before Christmas, because it would be nice to give people some relief and some bonuses for Christmas,
right.
Including all of us. I mean, that would be great. But I I'm waiting for a meeting that was probably started about 15 minutes ago as the time of this recording. So I don't have the end results of the where and the why yet. So,
and who's part of that meeting, Kim?
This meeting is between the higher ranking operatives and the operatives.
Okay.
So they're trying to come up with some kind of a interim administrative type structure, so that these people are used to rank and file. They're used to orders being passed down. They're used to those types of things. And in their world, there are people that they respect. So I'd say that some of their own, are trying to keep things from getting chaotic, as we transition.
Okay.
So that's a positive. Now, let's talk about victory a little bit. We mentioned earlier that there was some victories, and that's not even the victories yet.
Well, I view even all that with the operatives and them talking and understanding the situation. I view that as victory. Because
that is a victory.
It is.
And it's a victory for them too, because remember, they're all compartmentalized. You work for this group of the order, you work for that group of the order, you work over here, you're given limited information. They're all mushrooms, is what I call them, mushrooms, fed, beep, and it's kept in the dark.
That's funny.
Never heard that before?
No, they probably don't like that term, but I thought it was creative.
Well, now they're given all the information, and that's how it's supposed to be. And that's how we are going to do things. You are privy to all the information. You ask, and you shall receive. I mean, we don't have any problem with that. They can also see that now with the key intelligence and military system. I mean, people can't even think a thought without everybody knowing that that's a lie. So it's a really good system. They are impressed with it. They now understand a little bit better about how I do the things I do once you see how well it functions. And that's just in read-only mode. So,
and they didn't have read-only mode before, because I know some people had access to that, but obviously not this group.
No, they would have never been permitted to see. And actually, they would have probably been told it didn't exist, because you can't have these guys having information. That's how they've always done business, and that's not the way that we do things. I mean, as an example, so we all know I'm in Durango, Colorado, right? And 50 miles in one direction is Dulce. 50 miles in the other direction is Silverton. Silverton, Colorado is a former mining town, but it hasn't been former as long as people think. It looks like a little historical mining town. It's cutesy and all of this kind of thing. But in reality, they did not stop mining there until 2019.
What were they mining?
Oh, rare earth minerals, all kinds of silver, gold, all kinds of stuff. We'll just say stuff, lots of stuff. Now, what had happened back in the 70s when this town became a zone, and the reason why it's actually a zone is because they took a nuclear boring machine and bored tunnels all the way from Dulce military base all the way to Silverton and back. Big tunnels. And Durango is right in between.
Oh, okay.
So they put all these retired, extremely dangerous people known as Reds, there's a movie about these guys, and into this location in case there was ever another war underground with the others, who also reside in Silverton.
Interesting. I've often wondered why Durango. And that's the explanation why.
So there were some stories about a man that had passed away, and I think you can probably still find some YouTube videos about this guy. His name's Phil something, I think, if I recall. I don't remember off the top of my head. And he talked about the war in Dulce. And so these videos, if you Google on YouTube or wherever, you can probably find the war in Dulce. But that war was not in Dulce. That war took place in the tunnels under Durango.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So these guys are told when you come here and you retire here, you are told limited knowledge of what actually is going on and why you're retiring here. Mm-hmm. So they usually give you a choice of a few different locations to retire, but some people come here.
Yeah.
And there was always supposed to be a certain amount of them here at all times, that kind of thing. But they are told they're here to protect the assets. So they're all pretty well, told about what's, goes on in Silverton, but not really. They're told that there's a lot of minerals up there and we're here to protect those in the United States and all of that kind of stuff. And they're also told that they will be paid for this someday. Okay?
Yeah.
Someday. It's always someday. That day never comes. But when you arrive here, you're guaranteed business, a job, you used to be. I don't know if that still goes on. And you're guaranteed a good, lucrative business. They build up this town. It's, all of those types of things. So, so there is some benefits, when you go to a zone to retire. So you're not broke by any means, used to be. And I think they even stopped handing out those contracts there for a while. But it wasn't until about 2021 until some blonde lady told them all, hey, did you know they've been taking this stuff out underneath the ground the whole time? And they actually went and verified it. They did not know. I'm like, what the heck do you think you're protecting?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
They've been taking stuff left and right out from underneath your nose. You don't even know it, and nobody got paid. And that began the fact-finding mission for the operatives. Mm-hmm. They didn't take my word for it. They went and checked everything themselves. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Langley 5 generals showed up at the time and, just ignore everything she says.
Yeah.
And they did for quite a while. It was topsy-turvy for a while. But anyway, things are better now. So just to give you one example of how they're lied to. Mm-hmm. And nobody questions certain people for some reason. And I understand it's dangerous. And I understand what they tell you, that these people could do. So now they've gotten a lot of information. They have access to a lot of information. I'm sure that some of them have been looking up things like operations they ran in the past and what really happened. Why did they really go there? What's really going on? And, it's just fascinating. And it kind of, you ever have one of those moments where, you have a question on the left, a puzzle piece on the left, and you have another one in the right hand, and you just can't quite see how they go together. Mm. And then someone gives you that final piece that goes in the middle that connects the two, and you're like, oh yeah. So that's why that happened on that day. That's why I had to do that. Oh my God, that makes sense to me now. Mm. So a lot of that stuff was going on yesterday, and this was, going on most of the day. And it's a positive thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, people should know. I mean, especially people that put their lives at risk for, whatever purpose. Mm-hmm. So the victory part actually started more overnight last night.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So number one, we are now at 100%.
Okay. Source energy.
Yeah.
100%. Okay.
At 100%. And the silent circle knows it. Mm-hmm. And the silent circle is ready to re-engage.
How did they react to the Italian guy disappearing as well as his team?
Well, there was a little bit of time where it was not shocking, but he wasn't well liked anyway. He's the one that prevented everybody from going forward and that put everything on hold. There were others that were also naysayers within the group, other families, and they are now no longer naysayers because naysaying is dangerous.
So, it's hazardous to your health.
Yes. So they're focusing right now on all of the failing corporations.
Okay.
That's their focus right now. So we'll see. This is all just happening. We haven't talked to each other for 48 hours. It's not been that long. Okay. Yeah. Next. Now this is the part that I was like, yay, and finally, the families of the order have officially tapped out.
What do you mean by tapped out? What does that mean?
That means they're all standing down. They're no longer going to pursue any operations or control.
The families, like as in the Rothschilds?
Yep. Anybody who's left anyway.
Yeah.
From the Order of the Dragon and the Black nobility.
Wow.
And they're no longer going to pursue any agenda.
And you believe that? I just question it because I'm like, okay.
We all question it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, let me give you an example of some events that happened this morning. So that's pretty much a worldwide decision. They don't have the money to fund it. They're never going to have the money to fund it. The solstice is tomorrow. Nothing they were expecting came, as per usual, and the natives are very restless. Governments are going broke. There is no structure at the moment. Now, no watchers came. That was key. And then the fact that this person could get taken out, the most powerful one of all, and there was no revenge of demons or anything or aliens or anything came. That was huge. Okay. Now, as of this morning, I'd say we had a few Chinese stragglers with some bright ideas, and they are no longer with us. So if anybody else would like to try to step out of line and think you have a bright idea, trust me, you won't be having any more ideas by the time you're done having them. So stay in your lane, stay in your corner, stand down. You all live, you have plenty of money by our standards, not by theirs, to live a nice life. So go live it. Mm-hmm. So that is huge for humanity. We do have a lot of conversations. Like I said, there's a lot more going on with the operatives today. There is a number of conversations being had within militaries worldwide as well. There was a little bit of triple checking that no aliens are going to come attack them at SOCOM today, Southern Command. Mm-hmm. And of course, nobody came. Nobody answered the phone. No signal was found. So we're good. And we expect to see some changes very rapidly here, depending on how this meeting goes today. Now, let's talk about the way forward. Any questions so far?
The question that I had was when we were talking before about the silent circle, and the concern is if you take out that top guy, someone else is just going to come up underneath him. Have you seen any signs of anything like that gathering on that side, or you really think that they're just done? They just want to move forward now?
Well, the next guy in line was very scared.
Okay.
And the next guy in line is the one that actually tried to call the watchers, and nobody came. So at this moment, the next guy down in the bloodline, I don't know how they do their bloodline thing, but has not and will not probably step up.
Okay. And you think that cuts it then? No one's going to come up from underneath them and be like, hey, if you're not going to do this, I'm going to do this. Because I feel like that's what they do, right? Typically. Yeah,
that's what they've done. But for some reason, like I said, this guy being removed was really shocking for these people. And I don't really understand all the rules of the order. Right. You know, I don't really understand how they think. But it had to do with his, I know that they choose successors and families based on where they are in the line. And I think the line is determined by the amount of, I don't know, certain type of blood DNA or something. They have a purity, maybe, to the Merovingians. I'm not sure how they do that, but I know it has something to do with their DNA and the bloodline and something. And then they give you a number when you're born within the families. And well, yeah. And then just depending on the amount of purity you have or something will determine where you are in rank and file to ascend the throne, so to speak, the unseen thrones. So I don't know. This was pretty serious for them. They thought this, I guess it was enough to scare them to the core.
Yeah.
And we did have, even this morning, we had a couple of little SSP operatives that gave it a go. We had some Chinese people probably ordering them to give it a go. And some triads and jades that were in Shenzhen trying to give it a go. They're all gone now. Mm-hmm. And we can do this all day.
Yeah.
We really can. So hopefully that message that went out was big. And hopefully nobody else will start to get a bright idea.
Okay.
Now, way forward.
Yes.
Start talking about way forward. So we came up with a structure that we believe is a good way to prevent a one world government from ever happening.
Okay.
Again, I say again, because we're only going to be here for a short time, relative to the planet. And as we have talked about before with CARE, we have a lot of interim structures that have to go into place. So we might decide we're going to change the way we travel around the world, the way humans travel. And our end result is that we all have our own little mini spaceships and we go wherever we want when we want to. But that requires a lot of change, a lot of training, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of development, a lot of research and development, some kind of Skyway program, as I'm just giving you kind of an example, if this was something we were going to do, some kind of Skyways so that everybody's not crashing into each other. Right now we have the FAA, that monitors planes flying around the world. What are we going to do, in the future if this ever takes place? So we might go from that to like maybe a vehicle that's not powered by petrol at some point in the future. There might be some kind of a hydrogen fuel that kind of can be retrofitted into current fuel stations, like we talked about that before. And then maybe we go to a neutrino powered vehicle, and then maybe we start going into some hovercraft, and and then we get people into where we want to end up with the Skyway situation.
Sure.
And this plan that I'm going to outline to you is just that. It's how do we get from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. So I did an interview on Monday night with George the Iceman, and he gets very upset that, he opens a chat room on YouTube. And of course, you've got a whole bunch of people that love that I'm on and a whole bunch of people that hate that I'm on, and that's fine. You're entitled to your own opinions, and that's okay. And doesn't bother me any. I don't really care. And I don't even watch that stuff, when we're talking. But he asked me a question towards the end of the first hour on YouTube, and he said, do you think there'll ever be a time, or do you think it's time for people to govern themselves? So I paused for a minute and I said, look at your chat. That's a direct indication of where humanity is at right now. Really, it is. And there are other interviews I'm sure he does with other people, and they don't like those people either, or it's different people that don't like those people, and, whatever it is. And it's the same thing I see a lot in, various Telegram chats and in all those types of things. And it's a major crisis when somebody is blocked in Telegram, but they don't take any personal responsibility for what they said to all those people and got everybody upset, either. So, but, they want to force their opinions and their views on you and my way, the highway kind of thing. And, anyway, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's just Telegram. I mean, I personally lived for decades of my life without Telegram, and I'm still here and I'm okay. Really, I am, without any social media. So we're okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, I find it a useful tool. We can make international calling for free, that kind of thing. So we all know that they're all owned by various agencies of some sort or another. And no matter, there's no secure app you're making a phone call on. So don't think that there is. And so, but it really is a direct indicator of where humanity is at.
Yeah.
So having some type of an interim government would be good. Even the archivists have said it, that it would be good to do that. But not with the current management. But now that the families, pretty much as a whole, minus a few stragglers, have decided to stand down, mainly because there's no more lies to tell, that leaves an open vacancy for us to do the things we need to do. Mm-hmm. And with cooperation of the operatives, because the operatives run the governments anyway. This is worldwide. Yep. It doesn't matter who's talking on TV. It's the operatives. Let's face it. Period. End of story. Whether they're fixers for the Federal Reserve, they're fixers for the Treasury, they're fixers in the political sector. And a lot of the distension that happens right now that we see is because the operatives don't want to lose their job. Mm. That's why they try to preserve the Fed. That's why they try to preserve, because they're told that that's it. If you worked here and they go out of business, you got nowhere to go.
Right.
So that being said, it's kind of the opposite now under this temporary interim step-by-step plan. So that being said, people in that sector haven't gotten paid in a long time. Maybe little bits in here, pieces in there, but not since really gotten paid since the last time I funded the government in 2019. So now what happens? Okay, they've all been promised. That's why they all go to these locations. They want to hear about changes. They're excited to not go around in the circle anymore and keep taking orders from crazy people. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about real changes that can happen with 100% cooperative of the operatives.
Right.
Changes that we see. Okay. These are your lawmakers. These are your law writers. Some of them are lawyers. Some of them are, in the finance sector. So we thought about this long and hard, and we had come up with something interim. So here's the interim thing. Okay. Let's take the political sector. The political sector around the world currently has been selected, all officials, democracy or otherwise, are selected by the order. Mm-hmm. And then they're assigned security, quote unquote, or controllers or operatives, mm-hmm. who then report to another faction of the order.
Yeah.
So the way to change this out is to think about after a period of about a year to 18 months, I figure. What about if our governments, because they're all corporations. I know that people say, oh, we need to nationalize this and that and that. It's all a corporation, mm-hmm. period, end of story. Most of the money all runs through the private sector. It's a private sector treasury. It's a private sector everything. And what if we had a government that had a structure in place that was a cooperative, or for lack of a better term, an ESOP, which is an employee-owned corporation.
Right.
Interesting, isn't it?
So kind of play that out a little bit. What does that look like?
Okay. what that would look like is we already have boards of most major sectors of the government. We have a board, for lack of a better term, at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Pentagon is also a private corporation. We have a board. We have an executive branch or a board of the government as well. And every government has an executive branch. Mm-hmm. That executive branch used to always report to the order, but now they won't. Now they don't. Interim wise, it'll be CARE. You have a board. Okay. Then you have shareholders. We'll call them Congress. And you have a Treasury Department. We also currently have a Fed, sort of, kind of, not really. So you take into account, all of these different sectors. You have a media programs, you have intelligence agencies, you have a lot of different people, and everybody's got a board. Mm-hmm. Whether it be Langley 5, and typically politicians and aides make money based on laws they passed, laws they don't pass, which, let's just face it, it's a selection. It's all a selection. Mm-hmm. And they make money based on pushing new technologies through, new drugs through, new different types of things. The things are endless, what they do in human health services and whatever that's called in your country. And everything is done under the table. It's hidden in accounts in Switzerland. And then Panama became the new Switzerland. That's why you had the Panama Papers, or it's hidden in an offshore account in the Caymans or somewhere else. But as an employee-owned corporation, it would actually be the operatives and the aides and their fellow actors that there's no need for corruption anymore because you're all being paid to make money. You're all being paid.
Well, how does the government make money? Like, I understand how corporations would make money. They're selling products and goods and services, but the government, what would the government be selling?
Well, everything is military is going to be can sell their own military equipment. They can get involved in the manufacturing of planes, the safety of planes, the FAA, and a lot of other things that are supposed to make us secure. Mm-hmm. Okay. Perhaps in the future, airlines will pay a safety fee. They already do that anyway with the FAA and the memberships and this and that, and maybe that goes to the government. We also have a thing called spending tax that we want to implement at some point in the future. So there's money that gets made, that gets put into the governments to make sure everybody, but normally a lot of that big money, those multi-trillion dollar budgets, that all goes out the back door to corporates. Right. Now that's a whole nother sector of things. But the government actually can stand on its own 2 feet, and as cooperatives, they all share in the profitability of the government. Now, for a long, long time, the Federal Reserve sold dollars at 10% because all commodities worldwide are traded in dollars. So 10% of all the dollars in circulation, that's a lot of hundreds of billions of dollars, I'm telling you right now. So there's a lot of commodities. You can look this up, how much in commodities is traded on the commodities future market worldwide. And then you also had the black market too. Mm-hmm. And everybody has dollars. Everybody has treasury notes. Mm-hmm. So there's plenty of profitability to be made for the people that are running the corporation. Now, I know that's going to freak patriots out that are listening to this, but it's a corporation. It is not, it has a corporate structure, it is a pyramid structure, selections happen, that kind of thing. Your vote doesn't matter. It never has mattered, but maybe it will matter now when we don't have that kind of corruption, because now it's not corruption, it's the norm. Mm-hmm. Nobody has to hide money offshore anymore. And this is how your operatives get paid if you're a political operative. The same thing goes for the Treasury Department. Why aren't the people, not the crazy troll lady, don't get me started on her, but why aren't the operatives, the financial operatives that are running the Treasury Department, owning the Treasury Department? They own that part of the corporation. Why not? Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? It's running that way anyway. They just had different owners.
What is it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just had a question because I understand how the Treasury could work. I guess my hang up is with, and obviously I'm viewing this from the eyes of someone who lives in the United States, but for our Congress, like, I kind of don't want that, assuming we're keeping the current structure with the House of Representatives and the Senate, I never thought those people should stay there for a long period of time because things get corrupt. I always thought
this is also where that helps this process. So the reason why presidents get pushed into office and selected to go there is because they have a whole team, usually 1,000, if not more, operatives that go with them. And then they become worldwide power brokers.
Right.
The same thing for congressmen and women. House, Senate, whatever, representatives, they get a team as well. It's usually not as large as the one that goes into the White House, but they do have a large team as well.
Right.
And so, for example, you see on TV sometimes you'll see the president of the Banana Republic is meeting with the president of Orange Land. Mm-hmm. You've seen that, right? Like they shake hands, a state dinner sometimes, big deal. So sometimes they go to their house, sometimes they come over to your house, whatever, vice versa. And all of those things that they talk about and agree upon, be it a treaty, a ceasefire, whatever it is all agreed upon and signed, sealed by the operatives before the actor guy ever gets on TV or lady.
Right.
So that's all their work. Now, the same thing goes for the House of Representatives, the representatives and congressmen and women and so on and so forth, and that's part of the reason why they're, once they get in there, their butt cheeks mold to the seat by the time they get out. They usually get out because they're either very, very ill or, they retire for whatever reason. Things get too hot, too heated. So that being said, the things that happen behind the scenes amongst the aides. So the aides now have a long-term position, the operatives, long-term position. Longer the guy is in there, the more influential they become, within the lobbyist groups and the rank groups. And, you've got to talk to, John Doe. John Doe is your guy. If you need to get that passed, go talk to John Doe. And then John Doe charges sometimes 10%, 30%, whatever it is. And that's how he makes money.
Okay.
See? Mm-hmm. But now he'll make money anyway. He'll make that kind of money legally, legitimately anyway. Mm-hmm. So there's no fear, and we can also come up with things like retirement packages. You serve 4 years, 8 years, whatever it is. We do term limits, just like they do for the president. And now we offer you a wonderful retirement package where there's a lot of money and that kind of thing. And then you move on with your life. You retire. Maybe you go do something else. Maybe you pick up a different congressman to back or whatever it is. But you see how it kind of takes corruption out of it? And it also takes corruption out of the selection of a president.
Yeah.
Because if you do it like this and everybody's getting paid anyway, then it doesn't matter who sits in the White House seat, does it? You're rotating terms, it. You're supposed to have 8 years, that's what everybody goes for so they can make the most amount of money. But now this whole power broker scene, you can make the deals and all of that, but all that's corporate money. And you are a shareholder, so you get paid off what John Doe does and Fred Smith does and everybody else, and you split it all up. It goes into a huge pool. There's no competition anymore. There's no trying to stab each other in the back for trying to get somebody in a different seat so you can make more money. Because everybody's making money, and a lot of it. And it takes out things like, you're concerned about the Stock Act and all that kind of stuff, and black market trading that goes on in politics worldwide, selling out citizens for a cut in vaccines and other things that they try to push into certain countries and almost all countries, recently. It takes out things like signing over your human health services to the World Health Organization. It takes all that out of the equation because there's no need. There's no kickback. I'm telling you right now, political operatives worldwide work for money, and big money, millions of dollars money. No one signs anything unless there's a kickback, or lately a promise of a big kickback for signing over the human health services over to the World Health Organization. But no money ever comes. No money ever comes. So do you see now kind of a bigger picture on how this could clean up politics?
Mm-hmm.
Is that making sense to you now?
It is making more sense. I feel like there's just a lot of components that I'm not well versed on, like the structure of how things were. And your explanation definitely helps. I just don't know enough about the system to be like, yeah, but what about this? Or what, you know what I'm saying? I don't have the complete picture of it. I just wanted to make sure that like people can't stay in a position forever because we need new ideas, you know? And I
wrote a paper once and I actually wrote it to Tom Melville a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it was about the American Development Bank I wanted to form. Mm. And the American Development Bank was supposed to kind of separate the corporate world from the government world. That's what it was for. So the government funds the government, keeps the government functioning. You know, now it's all a big corporation. We've known it's been a corporation for a long time. Might as well have that corporation make money, trade deals, all kinds of different stuff, and have the operatives make money clean, clear, above board, no hiding behind the iron curtain, and no one's going to come after you for your money. You know, that's how they do it. When you don't do what the order wants you to do, then they will blackmail you and blackball you from the political system, from ever participating. And then all your bank accounts go away. They'll make sure that you don't make any money, all that kind of stuff. And everybody knows it. So it's like a loaded gun being pointed at your head the entire time you have the job. So they can hide the money in Caymans. They can hide it in all these different places in case a regulator, you know, that doesn't know what's really going on, gets froggy, but all that goes away, including from me, you know, because I'm the one putting the structure together. You know, I agree. You'll also have a better chance of having a fair election in the future because it's all one corporation. It doesn't matter what seat you sit at in the corporation, you still make that kind of money. See, it takes the competition out of the whole thing. And now everybody's making, you know, millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And it's not just up to Joe, you know, who happens to be in the political sector for, you know, as a fixer or whatever for 30 years because he's kept his actor in place that long. And now he's your go-to guy and has the most influence amongst the other aides in the Democratic Party or something. I mean, that's how it works now. No, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Doesn't matter who goes in there.
So along with this, do you foresee a lot of disclosure? Because if we're going to revamp this system, I feel like the public really needs to know how things were run and why things are changing and why all the people, you know, they're used to seeing in politics are probably no longer going to be there.
I would say there will be some things, but most of the stuff you're going to see is about moving forward, moving humanity forward, moving humanity forward. Remember, we're not trying to slay people at the stake here because they all worked for some people that were very, very scary with a loaded gun to their head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have to be very careful about this. But we will see things like, you know, you just suggested term limits. That was part of my American Development Bank structure. You could only be there for 5 years, you know, for the bank that we were forming. You could not have anyone in your direct lineage, like a son or a daughter or something, take your position for at least one generation. So for like, I think we said 10, 15 years or something like that. This is going to prevent those family structures from being re-implemented. The other thing that this does, which was kind of similar to the American Development Bank that I wanted to build, and then of course a development bank in every country, is that now you've got a government that is broken into millions of pieces. So there's not going to be that direct lineage thing anymore, the political families. Now we have an opportunity to see anyone run for government, not just from the political families, not who the order selects to run, not any, now it's kind of wide open. Heck, some of these guys might want to run, and who knows, but it changes a lot if you really think about it.
Well, what I like about this is it's possible if, strings aren't being pulled behind the scenes, it's possible that you are going to naturally filter out all of the old guys. When by old guys, I'm talking about the people that have been in politics forever. Because if there aren't reasons for them to stay, and if there aren't, things holding them in place, like operatives and things like that, then maybe faster than what I originally thought, maybe we could have a Congress that looks completely different and is more truly representative of the people that they're supposed to represent. What I mean?
Sure. And they're all members of the same corporation, and they have shares in that corporation. We can cash out on those shares, give them a nice golden parachute, a nice retirement package. Then nobody cares if they've only spent 8 years in the rat race over there. So you can see the types of things that are possible when you have a different structure now that the operatives are on board, and they'll do much better too. They'll make a lot more money. There's always room, in every trade deal for GIA payments, those types of things, because we're normally funding all of those things. At least we would be for at least the next year or two. And once that time period is over is when you turn it over to the ESOP structure. You let them run it now that we know it's a profitable business again, once the model has changed. We have other structures that are more geared to industry. We've talked about assurance, we've talked about other things, and there's a lot of corporations that are out there that are run by operatives also, especially in the medical industry and those types of things. We have to retrofit those companies so they'll still make money in a different way. And that's going to require funding. Those types of things. Also, the corporate structure of them taking a position is different. Now, let's talk about our bank problem. Those assets expiring, they're no longer bank assets. There's a lot going on right now in the banking sector, and we're all kind of scared about it. So the one group in this world that these banks actually respect, other than the order, their genetic shareholders, which no longer need to be there because the banks are insolvent, and number one, and number two, under bankruptcy, no shares matter anyway. There's usually no share payouts or anything like that. So remember, these are actual corporations now, so we can treat them with SEC violations and all kinds of things. But what if the Federal Reserve Board, we do have some members of the board that are sane, and they've been trying to move in our direction for like a year or two. And then you have others that are just crazy. So some of them won't participate, some will. But as far as understanding how to go from point A, which is where the banks make ridiculous sums of money, charge us lots of fees, currency conversions, and all of this types of stuff, to a service provider fee, to be paid by the repository. Then the burden doesn't go on the customer, and you are a bank unto yourself because there's no custody rights. There's no need to have custody rights at that point. Now, these guys do understand banking, and they have been taking orders from this group for a long, long time, since the inception. The creation of the Federal Reserve was by those people. So what if they participated in the restructuring of the banks and then moved into the tier one banking sector? That kind of makes sense. That's a good transition. They can also participate in a regulatory board for finance, because we still have to have consumer rights and all of those types of things that we have now. And they participated in that enforcement unit, and to make sure banks aren't taking redlining, meaning they're not lending to certain poor areas or certain ethnicities or something like that. Like, these are all basic consumer rights when it comes to finance. Capping of interest rates, if there are any interest rates anymore, I don't know, we'll see. But this would be a positive way to move to transition the Federal Reserve actually to pre-Federal Reserve ways of doing business, because the board of the Federal Reserve was formed in Jekyll Island, as you know, you've read the book, by people like J.P. Morgan. And he was Rothschild's cousin. And, the Wells Fargo was always the Chinese sector of the families. So, it was formed by the families, for the families, by family members.
Yeah.
But if they still want to participate, there's a whole governing section of the Treasury that'll need to take place for that part of the corporation. And then, we can put them into other key positions within the world that will actually help with the transition to a service-based business. And we can change the face of banking together. I mean, that works. Now, the other thing is you have to remember, all board members of the Fed also have their own set of operatives. Okay. So if the Federal Reserve went away, that doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. That just means you move into a different job with a different position, and you can make more money, actually, and so actually get paid this time.
You still think the Federal Reserve is going away?
Then what do we need it for?
Yeah, well, I agree. Yeah.
Their regulations are no different than our mask mandates. Mandates is not a law.
Yeah.
It's a suggestion. Their regulatory body is a suggestion as well. And then you have a whole shadow side of the banking system that they have been a part of implementing, blacklist, all kinds of things, ID 2020, central bank digital currencies, all of those types of things. But there are a lot of people that are against that. So these are other places that those fixers can go to and make lots of money. Service provider agreements, because you're servicing our currency. So remember, we are the global repository. We are the office of the currency curator, the curator of currencies, and we are the ones that distribute money to the world. Mm-hmm. Okay? New allocations of money coming into the system. That being said, you are providing the service to me, mm-hmm. for the benefit of humanity, because you are the trustees, essentially, the beneficiaries, the beneficiaries of the global repository.
Right.
All of humanity is. So we would be paying the service provider fee, and it would be very hefty, probably better money than they're making right now, raping and pillaging humanity. Mm-hmm. We will develop new mortgage programs, meaning the way people, I'm not going to even say mortgage, I'm going to say the way people buy homes.
Yeah.
We will develop new programs for the way people buy transportation, receive monies for the development of new technologies. Because right now you have to be proven, you have to have, you have to basically be able to stand on your head and bark at the moon on the next full moon or something like that. It's very difficult to bring a new technology into the market because the bank considers it a very high risk. So we will change the way that people receive money for these types of things as well. So they'll be providing, yes, a service to you, but their main service is to me, because I don't have to sit there and have a conversation with every human on the planet that wants to develop a new technology.
Right.
So this is beneficial. So I'm hoping by having this conversation, governments, people, are, because it's a little uncertain right now. Everybody's a little bit scared. They've never not had those people hanging over their head. Never. So this is the first time ever in the history of human history that they've not been hanging over their head, or at least in a few thousand years. So, freedom is on the way. It's going to look a little funny to you for a little while, not the average everyday person, but, from our side of it, you could say, oh, why is she doing this? Number one, I have no intention or want to control governments of the world. I can't even, no offense, I can't even watch you people. Like, oh, God. I never even paid attention to any law that was ever passed for anything, for any reason, actually, until we all got locked down. That was the only time I ever paid attention to anything anyone had to say. So this is going to look funny to you, especially to the Patriot community. It's going to look like a big change, but it'll be a good, positive change for all those involved and for you. Remember, everything is a transition. If we can keep some of the system that's here alive to some degree, we can then transfer the sheeple, the ones that are not awake, that are not aware, and that's not an insult. It's just, they just don't understand what's happening here, into a better system over time.
How long do you think it would take? Because there's going to be people on Telegram. They're like, we don't want any governments, no governments whatsoever. So
we don't. But again, you don't control other people. You don't. And right now, the way that I see it, even in our own small little circle here, it is not time. It is so not time. We tried assemblies. We tried it all. These guys have lots of experience in doing this. They've been trained for this. The only thing we have to do is retrain them, to answer your question, for at least one, possibly up to 2 years, meaning no more compartmentalization, those types of things. So once they understand how the new way works fully, and then we'll transition into that cooperative / ESOP plan. And then that really is dependent on 8 billion people, and there'll probably be more walking this planet when we're not trying to kill them all. We got plenty of open space. Don't worry about that. There's no such thing. I think it's less than 7% of the world is actually developed landmass of the world.
I believe that.
So we've got plenty of space. Plenty of space. We even know how to make floating islands if you get too many people. So, no, we actually do have the technology for that now. So
that's awesome.
I mean, there's plenty we can do. Plenty. So not to worry about that. I'm going to say, if everything went really smoothly and we roll out those changes, people start seeing some relief. They're not running in a rat race anymore. The health is taken care of. They can start making decisions that are not out of fear and lack. I think we could see significant changes in humanity within the next 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
And then perhaps, that doesn't mean that we then throw away, all the political operatives that have been working really hard to get this stuff done. So we would then pick another corporation or other corporations that have plenty of money to retire. They could take their own way, their own company, whatever they want to do from there on out. I mean, so there's a lot that can be done, There's a lot. So that changes significantly. Militaries, let's talk about militaries. Militaries are also a private corporation unto themselves, worldwide, global military, as they are. They will, other than obviously like basic goods, we've talked about this before. In other words, like toilet paper and food products and this and that, the military should be making their own equipment, and that equipment is going to change. I'm talking about like top secret fighter jets and, these types of things, and they will morph into something else too, something much more effective. in the future. This is that A to B in transportation. The military is going to change a lot. They'll have much more sophisticated technologies. They'll be trained to defend this planet as a whole. And also our security in the interim, meaning, you know, we're going to have crazy people for a while that are not necessarily bad people, but, you know, it's going to take a while for governments to understand how the world is going to work now. And we'll still need some of that equipment. But they will start manufacturing some of their own. They can sell it to other countries that don't manufacture stuff if they want to. That's, of course, up to everybody's choice. So they can also get involved in other areas of safety that they may not have thought about. Public transportation in all of its forms requires safety and security. It not only from a technical standpoint, mechanical standpoint, we need to make sure crazy people don't get on planes with guns and you know, cause a vacuum, cause problems, and understand how those things work. So there's always going to be, we're going to have lots of forms of security in which they can make money eventually on their own from the private industries and private sectors. So I'm hoping I'm giving somewhat of a picture of how we could change that now and in the future, and some interim things that can happen to where they will be self-sufficient. The board will be there, and then eventually the board will be responsible for the ESOP. You know, more money they make, the more money everybody makes to some degree, depending on your rank and file. It's like that right now. It would just change the accounting behind it. When $1 trillion goes missing, nobody asks where it went. You know, that's not going to happen anymore because that's going to affect your paycheck. And the other thing that this keeps in place is, you know, when generals retire from the military, they go into business for themselves. What I mean by that is they provide services to the order. That could be buying and selling of weapons. That can be movements of things that, let's just say, maybe aren't entirely legal. Some of them are involved in sanctioned countries' oil trade, as an example, those types of things. And they make a lot of money too. So this structure like this allows for them to have a hefty retirement. It allows for them to continue business, but above board this time. Because all that money they make goes into the corporation. They own a lot of shares, of course, as a long-standing member. Those types of things, those things don't go away, until that person passes away, and then of course their spouse is taken care of, and then that's it. But do you kind of see how it takes the corruption out? Because it's now normal business. Yeah. And then nobody's hanging anything over their head like, we'll expose you for treason and, whatever, because it's just, it's normal business. It's the right way to do business. They're not giving 80% of their profits over to an order or to CARE or anybody else for that matter. And it's going to take time for them to be profitable. And I'm assuming this is going to be, a year or two transition, and then probably needing support for another several years until they are self-sufficient.
Do you think the militaries around the world, now we view them, regardless of how they're kind of set up behind the scenes, we view each country as having their own military. Do you foresee this being more of a, for lack of a better term, a worldwide military, or are we still keeping
every country has their own military because there has to be a good cop and a bad cop, a boogeyman. Who's going to be the next boogeyman? Let's spin the wheel and choose a boogeyman. Do countries for a time still need to consider a defense force? Yes, you do. you do. And eventually, once humanity changes and the mindset changes, you'll still maintain a defense force and a police force, for a time, until I think that's going to be a while, honestly. I think we'll have some form of that for probably, somewhere between 40 to 75 years. I think we'll still have that. As far as a worldwide collaborative effort, we have had a worldwide collaborative effort in not a space agency, NASA. Space exploration, all kinds of, it's not really, exploration. It's not really a space agency, but we have to some degree had a lot of collaborative effort around that. And we should be looking to, and this isn't globalization, so nobody panic, but we should be looking to a space, a real space program, and technologies that break the time-space continuum, and galactic security and all of these types of things. We definitely need to learn how to defend Keystone Earth. I mean, we do. We have no hope of defending ourselves right now. I mean, other than me, and some of the members of the SSP are who we have to defend against at this moment, because they're wanting the lower astral to come and take over and make them king. I don't know, some crazy ass idea. But sorry about that. Yes, I think we will have a worldwide collaborative effort in the face of a common enemy. Let's put it that way. I do hope in the future, with our research and development centers being in, every country in the world, I would assume there'll be a I know there will be a collaborative effort between those technologies in their development, and they will be available for all countries, worldwide, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, I definitely can see a lot of military equipment thoughts as far as a common enemy is concerned. If there ever comes a time where there is one, where we would all be sharing. Let's just say we would be running operations together, probably coordinated by the GIA at that point. The GIA, there is a plan for the GIA, Global Intelligence Agency. The Global Intelligence Agency will have continental centers. People will participate from every single country. It's not going to be one nationality or one country. Every continental center would come together to form a worldwide board. Those seats will rotate regularly. And if you are from one country, that doesn't mean you're serving in that country. You could be serving in another country. I mean, you don't know. It's a random roll of the dice pick. We have disaster relief centers to build worldwide together. We have all kinds of things. Those are trillions and trillions of dollars in military grade equipment. You can't take a normal helicopter and go into a fire situation or a flood situation. There's special coatings that are military grade that only the militaries produce. So there are things, and you have to have military approval under current standards to buy these types of stuff, these types of things. Mm-hmm. So there will be a lot of equipment that will be required for things like this. So, that doesn't put, your operatives that currently buy and sell weapons out of business either, because they won't spend that kind of money in their lifetime. They're just selling a different type of weapons grade or military grade equipment. That's all.
Mm. Will the GIA replace the intelligence agencies that we see now that are causing so much destruction?
Well, technically, the way that it should be or could be, is they would actually become a part. So, for example, the American division of the Global Intelligence Agency. Mm-hmm. That would, once we're not hiding patents, hiding technologies, economic assassinations, countries taking out countries, people selling state secrets, because you don't need to do that stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. Espionage changes as well. Yeah. You've got an intelligence and military system that's going to tell you why someone's knocking at your door, meeting you for coffee. So, is it an industry that will go away? Probably not. But the enforcement, will change. The way that it's done and how easily it's done in the future will change. It's not that complicated. We don't need to surveil every single human on the planet anymore like you used to, because you're scared of us. That's why they built Echelon and those types of programs. The Order is scared of us.
It should be. Yeah.
Yeah, they should be, because we did it.
We did it.
So anyway, you're kind of getting a general idea of an interim way to transition into a society where we don't have government in the future, and how, if you are an operative and you happen to be listening to this, how you make money. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a place. I'm not here to make you eat crow. I don't care. I'm not that person. I don't have time for that. I really don't. I just want to know how we're going to fix it. Anything that's been structured, we can fix it. Or, I'm kind of tired of eliminating. I eliminate a lot. I really am. I mean, it's not people, it's alien technologies, it's stuff from this density and that density and those people. And I eliminate a lot every single day. And I am just tired of eliminating. I would like to build something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or retrofit something into something that works. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a little glimpse into the way forward. Nobody panic. I'm trying to get you to think about everyone that lives on this planet, all the humans that live here, and what their reaction would be, if things disappear. So we're going to try to fix it. We're going to try. And in this way, if we have 100% operative cooperation, we can make this work worldwide.
Okay.
And nobody's going to lose.
What are some of the positive things that we're seeing? You mentioned we're now at 100% light system. So what, can you give us any idea of some of the other things that you're seeing now that we're here?
Well, what have I been seeing for the last, it's only been a few hours now. It's been maybe, it's been maybe, I don't know, 15 hours or so, 18 hours, something like that at the time we recorded this.
Yeah.
I see minimal effects and disturbances from things. So, you get kind of like a little alert if there is something. So one of the things that happens when you turn on the lights is you see everything.
Yeah.
Right. And things are kind of getting squeezed out. So things that were dormant is one thing we're seeing this morning. Things that were dormant that are not functioning, but still need to go away. We have taken those things out. So I would say some things were put here and designed to actually have a light trigger to them so that they could possibly keep darkness going on this planet. And these are not human things.
Yeah, of course. No.
So I'd say we saw a little bit of that overnight and this morning. It wasn't too bad. Another interesting thing that's happened. So remember, everybody's afraid of us at the moment. Our dead gentleman also ordered about a week ago and paid for 45 days worth of chemtrails, which is why we're seeing an uptick in chemtrails. Yes, that came to light this morning as well.
Can we stop
he pays for that through the agencies. The agencies got paid for it already. It's been paid for up front, and then they send the orders out to commanding officers in those particular arenas. And then here we go. We've been sprayed like crazy for the last couple of days. I don't know if you've noticed it. I have. We actually were able to make a phone call to the agency that handles it. I'm sure you know who they are. And tell them, keep the money, stop spraying. Guy's dead. And they actually started putting out orders today to stop it. So
nice.
We'll see. Yeah.
Wow. And that was an order across the whole planet for spraying for chemtrails?
Yeah, it all comes out of the same agency. You can imagine which one that is, but I'll just leave it at that. Yep. I know. But see, these are positive things that can happen now when everybody's afraid of you.
Yeah.
So that is the World Situation Report for Wednesday. I had a lot between Monday and today, huh?
A lot going on. And so next steps then would be, you said that there's a meeting going on now. Do you expect people to be reaching out to you and deals to be made over the next couple of days, or what do you expect?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I know that they, like I said, I don't know the end results. I have to go in and listen, to the meetings that have gone on this morning yet. I mean, it's just happened since we started the news here. So we'll see.
Hot off the press here at UNN.
Hopefully I'll have some good information for you by Friday. So just to let all of you know, Monday is a news day typically, and Monday also happens to be the Christmas holiday. So I just wanted to point out the fact that Miss Sunny will be spending time with her family on Monday.
Yeah.
So we may, you may see me put out some kind of a special report or just a quick world situation update or something like that on Monday, which I will probably record either very, very early in the morning or maybe the day before if we have an update for you. So I will put that out. Otherwise, we won't have our standard news broadcast on Monday to give our amazing staff that put together the news, and there's quite a few people that do that, some time with friends and family. So I just wanted to let all of you know that ahead of time, so we don't get scared and hopefully you're too busy to look at my face anyway.
Wait, where are they at? They're not on Monday. Something must have happened. Oh no. Yeah, don't think that.
That's right. I know.
All right. Well, you want to answer some questions? You got enough?
I do.
Gas in your tank for that?
Let's do it.
And now it's time to connect with Kim. Our news team has selected 3 questions from our audience, and here's the first one.
Hi, Sunny. Hi, Kim. This is Jamie from Wisconsin. Have a quick question for you on Sasquatch or Bigfoot. My son and I have been watching a show on them. Very interesting. Had a few questions. I thought if anyone would know, Kim would know. Sasquatches, how long have they been here? Where did they come from? They have the ability, I believe, to cloak, and there's orbs associated with them. Are they dangerous to humans? Anything and everything you can tell us about them, we would truly appreciate. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
I'm excited we get to talk about this. I love Sasquatch. All right.
Do you?
Yes. Well, I've never met one, but I don't know. I just think they're fascinating. So maybe someday soon I will.
Okay. So this is probably a whole show for like another day, but I'll kind of give you the 10,000-foot view. They have been here for a long time. Would I say they're originally from here? Not necessarily. They are the reason why they call them cloaking, they can cloak themselves. They just actually predominantly exist in another plane. They are typically fifth plane beings.
Okay.
They do and can jump planes. They can appear in the physical plane. You know, we've seen them. But it's sometimes why you'll see an energetic signature or footprint or something like that. They are very in tuned with nature.
Right.
They are not a threat to you unless you are threatening them or nature. They are protectors of nature.
Yeah.
Animals, you name it. Trees, plants. If you are being respectful of their land, their place, I would say that they would be respectful of you. There are no harm to you. They mean no harm to you. They are lovely as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't have any problem with these, but they do protect very heavily, and that's why some would say that they're, you know, attacked by one or something like that. What else can I tell you about them? Don't worry about them. They're nice.
Yeah. Well, do you think that humanity will develop a relationship with that? Like a decent, you know, respectful, like, oh, I can see you now. Like as we start to transition and things like that. Do you think that's possible?
I think some do. You know, some people do already.
Yeah.
I think we have to learn to get along with each other first before we can start trying to get along with anyone else. You know, our first instinct when we see anything that's different or strange looking or odd or, you know, Lord knows we don't respect nature these days. So,
yeah.
You know, you might not, I would say not all of us. I'm not going to say that. I'm not putting everybody in the category, but say as in general, as a society, we don't. But I would say that we have a lot of growing to do, but I think that it's possible.
Okay. Let's move on to our next question.
Hi, Kim. Happy holidays. This is Mary in Northern Nevada. And my question is about deadly sins. Now that we're heading towards 100% light system, that we're allowed to have that, we're in the forevermore existence with no more anti-source. How did deadly sins work in this new landscape? Do we still need to ask forgiveness for them? Do they still exist? What's the latest on that? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nice hat, Mary. She's with Ground
I know.
Command.
I'm going to say that too. I'm with you too.
So, yeah, I've got questions about sins too. You have these deadly sins, and then, you know, based on your religion, you know, you hear about, you're sinning. So let's talk about the deadly sins.
Well, the deadly sins, you know, we have death, suicide, all, you know, murder, you know, all that kind of thing, lust, gluttony. Each one of those had a consciousness associated with it that, let's just say, was allowed to influence you as a person. And by the same token, if you committed one of them, you would feed it. Now, the dark side of humanity fed it a lot, which then made it grow, which then made people more likely to do bad things.
Right.
I would say in the absence of that consciousness, and with you transitioning to a light consciousness connected directly to source, I think that people in general will start making different decisions. Once you have the sovereign will to do so without influence of a dark consciousness. So I think it's going to take time, but and you have, you know, what I call homegrowns and people that have lived in war their whole life, and, you know, people that have struggled to survive, had stolen, those types of things. That will change. Changing the model of industry, like some of the things we just discussed, will probably take the greed out of things. I mean, if you can, you know how like when you're in college, Sonny, maybe you struggled a little bit, like, you were eating ramen noodles and kind of and at least I did. I mean, I ate a lot of ramen noodles in college. I did. Yeah. And with peas, without peas, with eggs, without eggs, sometimes with the water, without the water. I got real creative.
Yeah,
and
I know what that was.
Yeah. And then you kind of get your first job and you start making a little bit of money. And then maybe you get promoted or whatever. And there comes a point where you kind of like have bought all you wanted to buy. You bought a house, you bought a car, you got, those kind of things. And you really, if you don't buy into the latest, iPhone or the latest this or the latest that, and you're okay with your one that's a couple years old or something, you really don't, there's like nothing left you want. Mm. So if you have the ability at some point to not feel like you're living in lack, and that's going to take a little bit of time, people are going to be less likely to steal anything. You don't need to do it, but it's going to take a while to, and I hate to say reprogram because that's not the way, to lead by example in a way where people can, if you want a house, you build a house. If you want this, you build that, mm-hmm. It takes away a lot of the, the greed, the lust. Lusting doesn't necessarily only have to do with, relations between one another. It could have to do with, you're lusting for this or lusting for power or lusting for that. Yeah. And, that coupled with a mostly light consciousness without a dark influence, I think people are going to naturally make different decisions. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take time, though. We all have PTSD. Let's face it, we do. Mm-hmm. In so many ways. So that's my opinion on that. Just like your kids, I always say, you always look at source as, or God, or however you say it. I always look at that as, your dad. Mm-hmm. Now, you might not always like what your kids do, but you love them anyway.
Yeah.
Have you ever said, I don't like you right now? I said that.
Yeah.
I did. But I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to think of sources the same way. As much as you love your kids, you'll always love your kids. You may see them heading for train wrecks sometimes and you try to stop them. You might see mistakes being made, and you hope that they choose to something different. But sometimes mistakes help them learn and grow. I call them lessons. I never let my daughter call them mistakes. I called them lessons. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it's always what you learn from it.
That's true.
We're not going to go in that direction this next time that happens. And, and I think of source the same way. I really do. Going down the wrong path, self-harming or whatever it is. I mean, I'd hope that, we never want to see harm come to our children. Mm-hmm. And with that much love, unconditional love that we have for them. And I think source is the same way. So are you saying asking for forgiveness? As a parent, what would you want? Mm-hmm. Is that what you would need? Would you need them to ask your forgiveness for doing something to their own selves, or to another?
Yeah. So it sounds like do the deadly sins still exist? That was part of her question too. I guess I'm still unclear on that. Are they still there? I mean, we may not participate in as much because our environment and our whole world is changing, but do the deadly sins still exist?
Well, they've been replaced with the 9 virtues, but that doesn't mean we don't live in the society that we are in. Do people do this stuff? Yeah, we're kind of forced to. We live in fear and lack. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's going to take time to think in a different way and to live in a different way. Yeah. But are you going to end up in the seventh layer of hell for it? No, probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to our final question.
Hi, Kim. Patron Tasmania here. You once mentioned the Order of the Golden Sun. I was wondering, what can you tell us about this order? And are there any names that we would recognize associated with it? Thank you for all you do for us. Lots of love to you and your teams.
All right. So the Order of the Golden Sun. It's been a while since I think we've talked about this.
She looks like me at night when I'm trying to watch a movie.
Keep your eyes open.
I got one dog on one side, one dog on the other side.
That's how you relax. You're like, I'm happy now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look. Yeah, it's a dog pile. I'd say the Order of the Golden Sun is what you refer to as the Melchizedeks. And yes, there are many figures throughout history. Names you would know. Let's see. Joan of Arc.
Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, we know about Cassandra in ancient Greece. Pretty much anybody you see tortured throughout history, yeah, beaten, that kind of thing, that's probably us. Oh
my God.
No, but there have been a number of people throughout history that have come and gone. I mean, obviously there's the obvious ones, you're the one you refer to as Jesus in the Bible. Obviously, there's an obvious, but again, tortured and murdered. Yeah.
Well,
So,
and the disciples too, right? Weren't there?
Yeah.
They were all Melchizedeks.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So,
Magdalene was Melchizedek.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very obvious they kill us all or try to turn us, That's actually happens a lot too. They try to get you to turn against the actual mission and reason why you're here. So, yep. That's pretty much who the Order of the Golden Sun is.
Very interesting. Okay.
I know.
Well, if you guys would like to submit a question for Kim, send a video of you on camera. Limit your questions to 30 seconds or less. Submit your video through our website at unitednetwork.news under the Field Messengers tab. Our news team, along with Kim, will select a few questions to answer at the end of each newscast. All right, Kim, I know you've got a lot of work ahead of you in the next
I do.
Good work. That hopefully
Thank you,
will
Sunny.
Forward.
Good work today for you too. Yeah.
No, I meant good work that you're going to be doing, hopefully with the operatives and stuff. But good job today too. I'll pat you on the back for today's work too.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
And that wraps up today's news update. Please share UNN with your friends and family. We need everyone to come together and help restore our planet. When news happens in your area, record it and share it with us so we can help you share it with the world. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I'm Sunny Galt. Join us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for The Real News.